Good evening, everyone. I'm going to invite you to the combined County Services and Finance and Budget Committee meeting for Washington County for the month of January. I appreciate everybody being here. We are all well aware of the weather situation we have outside, and so if I could take the liberty to say, let's be brief tonight. Maybe we can get this over with and get home to warmer homes and the people we love. With that, I'm going to turn it over to J.P. Simons. He's agreed to do us the prayer and pledge this evening. J.P. Simon?
Thank you, Chair. Bow with me, if you will. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to gather again to do the county's will and the business of the people. Please be with us this evening and give us discernment and wisdom. Watch over our families, bless us, and just watch over us as we go safely home. Thank you for your provision and guidance upon us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Simons. With that, we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda. Justice Ecke?
Judge, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda, but also with a perhaps an amendment because of tonight's weather being so precarious that perhaps the report presenters could just go home because the reports are online. And if any of our citizens have questions or comments about the reports, we encourage them to email this said elected official, department head, and quorum court, so that way we know that their questions were answered. So I'd like to make a motion that these reports that are on, I guess, number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 be made just online and not presented this evening, so that way they can go home safely.
Okay. I have a motion by Justice Ecke to remove the monthly reports from the agenda and allow these fine men and women to go home. I believe I heard second by Justice Pond. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those reports will be deemed submitted. We appreciate everyone. We will allow you to move on with your evening. Sorry to gather you here only to let you go, but that's good. So that amendment carries. Items 4 through 8 have been removed from the agenda. Justice Koger?
Oh, thank you, Judge. Yes, I have an ordinance I would like to add to the agenda tonight. It's not the exact same ordinance as I introduced last January. This ordinance is an ordinance to provide for the online publication of all Washington County resolutions, ordinances, and contracts. And when ordinance number 2126 was passed, Attorney Lester said they would apply to the exact same ordinance, and my ordinance now is not the exact same as last year. So I move that this be added to the agenda tonight.
You should have a hard copy handout. I don't know if everybody has.
I did. I put it on everyone.
I believe the quorum court has been, what would I say? You've been notified that Counselor Lester has deemed this falls underneath the prior ordinance that prevents it from coming back a year. This would require 10 votes to get back on the agenda to override that ordinance. Justice Lyons?
I think I'm in sync there. I'd like to know what's changed because, again, reading 2021-26, it basically, the article stipulates this, basically states, an ordinance shall not be reintroduced in less than 1 year if it once fails adoption by quorum court unless it relates specifically to the annual budget. So, to me, an ordinance that wants to publish online ordinance resolutions and contracts that was voted down in June could not come back up until June of next year.
Right. That's correct. And before we get too carried away here, we have a motion to add this ordinance to the agenda. We do not have a second. No second. We're going to move on. So we're going to move up to, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Motion to adopt the agenda as amended by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted as amended. With that, we'll move right on into item number 9. Number 9 is an ordinance appropriating, I'm sorry. My page. Item number 9, an ordinance prohibiting the use of compression release engine brakes in Washington County and for other purposes. Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, I looked into this a little further, and it is a state law. However, without an ordinance, they can't enforce it. I talked to Little Rock, I talked to Highway Patrol Department, State Patrol Department, and a little bit of everybody. I did cut back the transition area from a mile to a half mile, and I'm doing this for the people that are moving into the area, because we're building outside the boundaries of the city, and I believe that they're entitled to the same that the people in the city get, peace and quiet. So I put in for it to be an unmuffled compression braking system, where that's where your noise comes from, is when they're unmuffled. Those are the only trucks that I really have a problem with, and I got to tell you, there's not many of them, but there's enough of them that when the pits are open and they're running, you hear it all day long. And it ain't good for people. They don't really like that. That's not what they're moving here for. So if I could get a motion to get this moved through, a motion to amend it to what I have here now for the unmuffled compression brake, and do a transition area of 0.5 miles. It can be used in case of an emergency or anything like that. You know, so I'm trying to accommodate everybody to get this through, okay?
Second.
So, yeah, so we've got a whole new.
Well, if you, I'll cue your mic so we can.
So we really have a whole new, we did this, we brought it back to committee to modify it, he's modified it, so this is a new proposed ordinance. So really all we need is a motion to move it to the quorum court with a full pass recommendation
Well,
in a second, is that correct or not?
Yeah, the only thing that holds me up on that is we've taken action on this ordinance a couple times by putting it to quorum court and then referred it back to committee. I'd rather handle it through a motion to amend this ordinance if we can, since we have the black and white in front of
Okay.
us. Just procedurally, that's the way
That's
I'd
fine.
rather do it.
Yeah.
So I have a motion to amend for the unmuffled to replace compression brakes, and I believe it's the half mile. You can see that in this copy that's been handed out. Motion to amend by Justice Dean, second by Justice Ecke. Any debate on the amendment? Are we all wanting to speak on the amendment? Justice Pond, are you wanting to speak on the amendment, or?
This hard copy we got here separate from our regular packet, is this what the ordinance is gonna look like?
This is the
as
updated
amended?
one. If you look up to the top left, it should have item 23-0-139C.
Okay, so that's what it'll look like as amended? is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? All right, okay, thank you.
Justice Lemming?
Well, this, to me, owning lots of trucks, it don't make no sense to say unmuffled compression brake. Compression brake system can't work without a truck. You gotta have it on a truck. So I think the words need to come out, the engine compression brake system needs to be eliminated and put on there the use of unmuffled trucks. Because that tells you what you're dealing with, not a compression brake system. Compression brake system, that don't make no sense. And back again, we're picking on trucks, but I understand this complaint and understand this trouble, but just unmuffled trucks would be a more fair way to put it, I think. Thank you.
Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. Do we set the fines, $500 fine? $500 seems steep to me. Maybe, I know I'm old, but gosh, $500 seems like a lot of money for a ticket. And, you know, I'm thinking about the guys that, well, I just know how hard it would be for me to come up and pay a $500 ticket. And if I was new to the industry and out there just working away and got a $500 ticket, plus I think that they get more points whenever they have a CDL. I'm not 100% sure about that. Someone else could tell me, but you know, those points go against you in a lot of ways. They affect you in so many different ways that we don't even think. It affects your insurance. It affects young people. I don't know if you know this, but I learned this one this year. If you get too many points, you don't qualify for scholarships. So points are important on your driving record, and if you get twice as many just for having use of your your compression brake, I don't know. It just seems kind of steep to me on that. Just telling you how I feel.
Justice Taylor?
Thanks, Judge. To Justice Lemming's point, I guess I'm confused on whether this is intended to mimic like the Jake brake ordinances that you see around cities, or if it's something different.
Justice Dean, would you like to respond to that? Justice Dean?
Thank you. It's not like the ones in the city, okay? In the city, they don't want you to use the compression brake at all. What I'm saying is the ones, and they are unmufflered. That's why Jacob quit making them in, I don't know, back around 2000 or so, because the complaints. And the Jake brake got the name Jake brake from it. They devised a way to muffler the system. So now they're on every brand new truck from 2018. They're on there and they're all mufflered. So that's all I'm asking is muffler your system. If they get stopped, it would be a muffler ticket. I talked all this out with the highway patrol guy, the captain from down there and everything, and that ordinance 27-37-601, that is for unmufflered vehicles. If they stop a truck and it's got mufflers on it, but it doesn't have one on the Jake brake, they can't do nothing. Okay? They can give them a ticket for, well, they can't give them a ticket. It has to be unmufflered. And so there is unmufflered Jake brakes and ones, you know, that run mufflers. And so I don't know. That's all it is. It's not really a big deal. You know, it's getting a half a dozen guys to put mufflers on their Jake brakes.
So does it prohibit straight pipes or not, I guess is what
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah,
so
prohibits-
that's what it is
Yeah.
straight pipes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, I just used it as a term where that's why they got out of it. That's all. Yeah, I'm not using it for any other reason.
Justice Lyons?
Just kind of a response to the fee. I don't have a problem with the, I don't know, maybe JP Lenning or JP Dean or somebody knows, what does it cost to put a muffling system on the compression brake?
There's no such thing as putting a muffler system on a compression brake. The compression brake sits on top of the engine head, and the exhaust goes through the turbo and goes through the intake and goes out the exhaust pipe and goes through the muffler. It don't matter, you can't put a muffler on the Jake brake system. It's on top of the head that works the valves. Every time you let off the fuel, the valves open and close, and that works your Jakes, and that's what pops. You have to have a muffler on your truck, just like your cars, just like your pickups. It's got to have a muffler. Has nothing. The Jake brake system is in the top of the motor in the front. So this is a muffler issue is why we're fighting for him. And I don't care to fight for a noise muffler issue for him, but I ain't going to allow, me personally and all these truckers in Northwest Arkansas, don't want the word compression brake to get started, because when you open that can of worms, it don't stop. That's all I'm trying to fight, is because you don't want to tell truckers that's coming down the tunnel, down the mountain that just piled up a bunch of wrecks the other night, you don't want them to tell them not to use their Jake brakes down there, because, and I understand that he's saying, yeah, 5 miles from town, but you get that can of worms open, it don't stop. But there is no such thing as a muffler for the Jake brake system. It's for the whole truck system. Thank you.
So that's confusing, because you would think then under the current Arkansas state law that trucks have to have a muffler on them. If they don't, and this is occurring, they could ticket them. Would you agree?
Read that code and he's telling you that's exactly what that law is.
But they can't enforce it without.
Just a sec, wait. We gotta, excuse me, we gotta remember,
Sorry.
we have to keep our audio going, both for here and on the web. So, did you have a follow-up question for JP Lemming? Could you repeat it, and we'll get JP Lemming queued up?
No, it just adds a complexity here because I'm hearing it's the muffler system that needs to be on a truck. So what you're telling me is all these trucks don't have muffler systems on it, that we're having problems with the noise. That's what I'm hearing. And that doesn't necessarily make sense. Especially when the Highway Patrol says, if I got a state law that says you must have a muffler on your truck, and they stop them and they don't because it's noisy, but they can't ticket them, and then none of that, the dots don't connect.
Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. My concern with this is that we are spending a lot of time trying to legislate a solution to an alleged problem filed by a few community members. If there's, I believe the comment was a half a dozen, this is not a big deal if there's a half a dozen or a dozen people. Have we gone to the employers or the owners of the trucks making the alleged noises and asked them to upgrade their equipment to not make the noise? Does it really necessitate us spending all the time ad nauseum that we've spent so far to put an ordinance to legislate a problem that is so small? That, I mean, like, are we spinning our wheels for no purpose here other than to address very, very, very few people who have alleged complaints over noise, when maybe the half of the energy that we've spent could have been spent going to the owners of the trucks themselves and said, hey, can you guys upgrade your equipment so I don't have to pass a law to address it? This seems like a lot of work for a very small problem. We're supposed to be efficiently running a county, and we're caught up a lot of time and resources in this very, very small issue. I just don't see the return to the county. I feel like we've already spent a lot of our time and money trying to find a solution to a problem. Like, this is a solution looking for a problem.
Justice Lemming?
What I was doing is looking at that law, and I was going to let Mr. Coleman read the 2737 601 if you would like.
Justice Zeki, I think you were on deck next.
Thank you, Judge. It only affects you if it touches you. But if it doesn't touch you, you have no understanding or awareness of how serious this issue is. There's a subdivision and more growing subdivisions of citizens in Justice Dean's district that have asked him to please represent them and let their complaint be known. It's so loud that it wakes up the children when they're napping. It is so loud it disrupts families trying to have time together, outside, inside. So unless we experience it, I think it's best not to say, live with it. When the septic tank is overflowing in your backyard and it stinks, and then it affects your neighbors, but the people across the street saying, what's the big deal, so what? Well, it stinks. I do believe that the $500 fine was written in by Attorney Lester, so he must have some research done on either that is standard by the state. I think what we need to understand more than anything else is the state wants to enforce this, but they can't unless we have an ordinance. It's as simple as that. We're not putting the cart before the horse. We're not spending a lot of time. The state has stated we need an ordinance in order to enforce it. It's us, the county, working together with the state to protect the citizens of our county. And that is our job, is to protect the citizens of our county. You can argue any other way, but I'm in support of this because I believe that the people living in the neighborhoods are suffering because of it, and I don't want them to suffer because I just don't get it. Thank you, Judge.
Justice Dean?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a little rebuttal to the separation in mufflers. The trucks before Jacobs Industries quit developing the Jake brake, they were mufflered, but the engine brake was not mufflered. So I get a little confused when I hear it's all together. Then why did they stop making it, redesign it, and now new trucks, they hit the brake, you don't hear it. They could run right through town with the dime, you're not gonna hear it. I don't know how we got two different muffler systems, or you can't hook it up, or whatever, because it was done. They're on all the brand new trucks, so, you know. That's good.
Justice Justice Coger.
Yes. Thank you, Judge. I just want to kind of reiterate what Justice Ecke just said, that, I mean, I speak from experience. Where I lived before, noise pollution was a huge problem. I could not stay, there were times I could not stay in my house because the windows would be shaking. So there is a problem. And I don't know if this is the best solution, but why can't we go with this now and see how it works? And then if we need to revisit it at a later date, we can always do that. It's good to revisit things. So my suggestion is that this is at least a solution, and there is a real problem. So I'm going to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Justice Lemming?
I just wanted to read this Arkansas Code 2737601. Every motor vehicle at all times be equipped with a factory-installed muffler or one duplicate factory specified in good working order in the consideration operation to prevent excessive and unuseful noise of any smoke. That's a state law. Anybody can write a ticket on a state law, anywhere in the state of Arkansas. Any cop, anybody. And I don't understand Mr. Dean saying Jake brake, quit building Jake brakes. Jake brake's been building Jake brakes ever since trucks has been built, and they're building them every day. The reason why the new trucks has got this DEF system on it, they got a muffler as big around as a 55-gallon barrel now, and they have a DEF that you have to put in all your trucks. And yes, they are quiet. Yes, you can't hear them. So these 4 trucks or 5 trucks that's driving you crazy, you're going to punish all of the new trucks in Northwest Arkansas, all the J.B. Hunts, all the Tyson. You're going to punish everybody over 4 trucks. The state law says they need to have a muffler on their truck. Have your police officers get off their tail and go enforce the laws that we've already got and pass it and get them stopped, period.
Justice Simons?
Thank you. To clear up my previous point, it's not that this isn't an issue. For those that it's affecting, it's obviously an issue, and thank you, Justice Dean, for representing your constituents. I appreciate the work that you put in. You've obviously done some due diligence and talking to a lot of people. But it's about cost-benefit analysis, guys. Is this worth the application cost of the county of putting up signs and extra police time to enforce these laws over if it's 4 or 6 or 12 or 15 vehicles, when maybe a more direct approach, one that doesn't cost the county and the county road department time and man hours and equipment cost and supply cost to go put up signs and maintain those signs and all that. Just go talk to the employers that own the vehicles and ask them to upgrade their equipment or face state law consequences. Like, I don't think that the problem necessitates this level of solution. It's not that it's not important. It is important to those people, but it just doesn't necessitate this level of response or expense to the county.
Justice Dean, do you want to close this up here?
Yeah, thank you, Judge. I spoke with the head of the Highway Department for the state in Little Rock, Arkansas. they said, unless there is an ordinance, they can stop and give a ticket for a muffler. But if they stop that truck and it's got a muffler on it and it's the compression brake, they can't write a ticket for that because there's no ordinance against it. There's an ordinance against the muffler, but not the compression brake. And my colleague here, he's going to fight it tooth and nail. He owns a trucking company. So,
All right, Justice Dean,
okay,
you need to wrap it up.
yeah, that's,
You're getting,
I'm sorry.
we're supposed to direct your comments to the chair. Justice Lyons?
If there's nobody else to speak, I don't need to. I just wanted to call the question.
All right. First up, we have the amendment on the table. We have amendment to amend to what Justice Dean has brought to us this evening. It was amended, motion made by Justice Dean, second by Justice Secchi. All those in favor of amending? Aye. Those opposed? The amendment will carry. Now we need an amendment over the ordinance as amended. Justice Dean?
Make a motion.
Justice Dean makes a motion to pass item 9.1 as amended. Second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion on this item? Justice Dean?
No, I'm good. I'm sorry.
Any public comments on item 9.1? Come forward, sir. If you look, it's the button on the right. Push that, cue that mic up. Yes, please sit down, cue that mic up for me. State your name and where you live for us, if you don't mind, sir.
My name is Dwayne Cunningham. I live in Prairie Grove, Arkansas. 48 years old, lived here all my life. I do not own a trucking company. And the first thing I'd like to say is there's a lot of research that needs to go on this because there are a lot of facts that have been misrepresented. And I understand the concern of the community, but we, the people that drive these trucks and live in this community and work here, like Mr. Dennis said earlier, if I had to pay a $500 ticket for this, it would cost me 2.5 days of work. That's how much you're looking at here. Now, I understand people are building and the communities are expanding. That's not anything to do with us. That is a result of us doing our jobs daily like we're hired to do. The idea, I've had 5 to 6 brand new pickups in the last 4 or 5 years. Every one of my pickups, my diesel pickups, has an exhaust brake built by the manufacturer, and they're established and put on by the manufacturer, and there's laws all over the books, state and county and everything else. The city has a code that says you can't run a Jake brake in town. It doesn't say unmuffled. The sign in the city of Prairie Grove says no Jake brakes. It doesn't say exhaust brake, compression brake, engine brake, which, like I said, the education behind all this, there are so many different styles of exhaust brakes, engine brakes, compression brakes that haven't even been touched on here tonight. The research that has gone on to this and into this is a little bit lacking because the last account I had, if there's a state law, that trumps any local law. I mean, that's just the law. That's the way our justice system works, and that's the way it was designed, and hence the reason we're here tonight, because we're working on the local level. So if we do, even if we do adopt a local law, local ordinance, it can be trumped by the state. Just because we have a local ordinance doesn't mean the state has to enforce that ordinance. If you're on a state highway and you get pulled over, you can get a ticket by any highway police officer, state trooper, Washington County, whatever county you're in, Benton, Sebastian, LaFleur. I drive from one end of this state to the other 4 or 5 times a week. I drive through my town every day. I haul stuff with my pickup every day. Hauled hay to my cattle this afternoon. So I really feel misrepresented here today because the minority is not getting their voice heard. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming this evening. Are there any additional public comments on item 9.1? With that, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 9.1 to the full quorum court by Justice Dean, a second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Ms. Mason, will you please call a roll?
Coleman Taylor. No. David Wilson. No. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Yes. Charles Dean. Yes. Chandra Washington. Beth Koger. Yes. Robert Dennis. No. Willie Lemming. No. Gary Ricker. No, ma'am. Butch Pond.
Item 9.1 fails. Item number 10, an ordinance appropriating grant funds to various budgets for 2024 and other matters pertaining thereto. Item 10.1 represents a grant that we get, I believe, every year from the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management. And as you can see here, this is split between some very important things that our Department of Emergency Management supports throughout the county and throughout our area. Justice Ricker?
Make a motion to send this to full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to send to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker. I heard second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion on item 10.1? Any public comments on item 10.1? Seeing none, I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item 10.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 11, an emergency ordinance updating the flood damage prevention program for Washington County, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Justice Ricker?
Motion to pass full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. You have to have that flood controlled for people to be able to buy flood insurance.
Second.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker. I heard second by Justice Lyons. Is there any further discussion about item number 11.1? Any public comments on item 11.1? Seeing none, we have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation on item 11.1 by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 12, an ordinance amending the ordinance 2023-135 to amend the budget, controls, and other matters pertaining thereto. We've been as you all know, we had a great service by our comptroller, Mr. Story, who's since departed the county. And what we've really done now is we've gotten really involved in that comptroller's office, and we've learned and we've assessed. And one of the things that we've come across is there's certain things that are very labor intensive. And we're burning people out. What this ordinance would do is it would direct elected officials or department heads that if they want to amend or change salaries or grades, there's 2 windows throughout the year to do this. This has widespread support amongst the leaders that I've talked to. The other thing that this will do is inevitably when we get into budget season, we start amending the budget of the current year, and that's hitting a moving target. It's very labor intensive to do that. This would try to preclude that as much as possible. We understand that things come up throughout the year. There's emergencies, and you can see in this ordinance that the quorum court, will still have the power to adjust those if you see fit through an emergency process. So we're not trying to, even my office at times to time can come up with an emergency that we would want you guys to address. But other than that, this limits it to 2 times a year. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion that we pass this ordinance with a due pass recommendation. As a former chairman of personnel, oh my goodness, is it a moving target. And it's exhausting. And it's difficult to accommodate everybody. And then the pressure you get. You want everybody to get the staff they need. But this will help hone in and I think make each elected officials and departments more efficient and focused on what they're doing and not just, I need somebody. And I hope my colleagues support this. Thank you, Judge.
No problem. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke. I heard second by Justice Lyons. Further discussion? Justice Koger?
Thank you, Judge. I guess my question would be, this deals with, it says, okay, personnel positions, salary changes, title changes, grade changes. Why shouldn't this have gone through JSAP? I guess that's my question. For now, I have another question too.
We didn't have a JSAP meeting this month,
I know.
and this falls under the quorum court's authority.
Well, it's a budget. I understand it's called with the budget ordinance, but it just seems like all those things relate to JSAP, and that JSAP would have heard it.
But you have the authority over JSAP as the quorum court.
I know, I'm just saying, I'm not sure that's a good idea though, because.
You don't want authority over the JSAP? Because I would love to get, we're gonna amend this right now, let's go.
No.
I'm ready.
No, I'm saying, it's just with JSAP, we'd have more input, I guess, more discussion and more input from other departments and elected officials. That's my question. I mean, it just seemed like it should have been it would be a JSAP item. And my second thing that I'd like to mention is, so from March to July, 4 months, that doesn't sound too bad. But from July to March, 8 months, I mean, that sounds like a long time for someone to go without being able to, make those changes unless we have a majority vote.
Yeah, and I would remind you, that's when budget's going on. And I think there'll be times where people will add things or change things in their budget for the next year through that budget work. What I want to reiterate is the extreme labor intensiveness of trying to change those things during budget. It's
Okay.
very, very difficult. And so I think if you were to say, well, if somebody made edits or changes to their budget, okay, well, then that takes effect in January. So essentially from January to March, you have 3 months there. That's why we picked these particular windows.
Okay, well, I did not read the ordinance that way. I read it to be that's what I didn't understand. I read it to be that they couldn't even bring this up during budget process. So that's not correct.
No, I still think there's an avenue for people to put whatever requests they would like into their budget.
Okay, well then-
What we don't want to do is within the budget, be amending the current year, and then, of course, that directly relates to you're amending the year we're working on, and you can understand that. But I also see many, many benefits from this from a planning standpoint. I mean, you guys experience it more than anybody. You're constantly going through these adjustments and these grade changes. Well, if we could limit that down to a couple times of the year, I think, one, it moves to more fairness so everybody can move together, so that one elected official or one department's not moving while everybody else isn't. And then in those types of things, you'll understand how much that's impacting the general fund throughout the year. When you can see them more together, I would say, than the death by 1,000 paper cuts. Justice Lyons?
Yeah, just follow on to my colleague. I think you said that this would require, the emergency required to come to quorum court. And the gist I got of that was, without this, you don't have to do that. But that's not my understanding. Even if it goes through JSAP, it still has to come to quorum court and pass on a majority vote in order to have it enacted. So
Absolutely.
it really doesn't change any of that
Absolutely.
from my perspective.
And we'll see how this goes in practice. JSAP has no authority. I want everybody to understand that. JSAP has no authority. The benefit of JSAP is that we get together as elected officials and we try to agree on a path forward. So we may still consider and hear things in JSAP on the months that aren't open for this, just so that we can accumulate them and keep you guys informed about what's coming through JSAP. And then you can handle them all in one meeting, if you will.
Yeah, again, it goes through JSAP if it's an emergency. It needs to come for a vote right away versus waiting for the window and justified for that
Absolutely.
emergency.
But I would also tell you that doesn't change right now. If somebody brought you something directly to quorum court, you have the authority to override JSAP.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if JSAP voted against something, but you guys saw fit to approve it, JSAP is a formality. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? Public comments on item number 12. Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 12 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 13, an ordinance amending the library budget for 2023. Our library has seen some cost increases like many other people have had. The libraries are funded through a dedicated funding stream. What this is doing is taking some money out of their unappropriated reserves and covering up some budget deficits that they have. Justice Lyons?
As my normal concern as we end 2023 and go to 2024 is those unexpected increased costs. Do we know what those are, and what's the effect, if any, in 2024? Were they already covered, or is this something we're going to have to end up addressing in 24?
I'm not sure what the specific line items were here. I mean, I know what the line items are. I don't know what the specific items are.
Why?
Our library director, Director Aldrin, has not requested any updates for 2024.
Okay. Thank you. I'll make a motion, we pass this to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Lemming. Justice Ecke?
Just for clarification, this is coming out of the county library reserve fund, not out of county general. Just want to make that clear. Thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
Judge.
Any further discussion on item number 13? Justice Pond?
Yes, but, and I'm asking the same question, but this is coming out of the 1 mil library
Yes, sir.
tax?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Additional discussion or questions? Public comments on item number 13? Seeing none, I have a motion to pass item number 13 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Lemming. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 14, an ordinance recognizing and appropriating $81,101.31 in the Circuit Court 4 budget for 2023. This is a grant that we get through UAMS to support some of the labor for our drug court. Justice Lyons?
Make a motion, we pass this to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Simons. Is there any further discussion or questions on item number 14? Any public comments on item number 14? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 14 with a due pass recommendation to the full quorum court by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Simons. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item number 14 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 15, an ordinance amending ordinance 2017-44. Justice Coger, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, thank you, Judge, very much. The CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, also known as the Criminal Justice Coordinating Board, was formed in 2017 by ordinance number 2017-44. As a governing body, as a requirement for the establishment of the Northwest Arkansas Crisis Stabilization Unit. This ordinance states the board shall consist of local judges, local corrections officials, the prosecuting attorney, local law enforcement officials, medical professionals, and mental health professionals. And that limits membership options. The CSU operates under the rules and regulations of the Arkansas Department of Human Services, which require a governing body for all crisis stabilization units. Furthermore, the Arkansas Department of Human Services Acute Crisis Unit certification also requires a governing board. The most recent formation of the CJCC morphed from the original CSU into justice reform and was formed in 2020 as a result of the Criminal Justice Assessment Study by the National Center for State Courts. And the current CJCC was suspended last fall because the existing members had all exceeded their statutory term limits. Until his suspension, the CJCC had been meeting since the fall of 2020 and working on implementing justice reforms from the Criminal Justice Assessment Study. This amendment that I have tonight will allow for a broader base of members. My amendment will allow for judges, law enforcement, the prosecutor, and others to designate someone from their office to serve on the CJCC, and that will expand the membership base. I included members of the public because that's very important in order to have community buy-in. The National Center for State Courts recognized that was important in their 2020 study. They recommended that the CJCC membership include members of the public, including previously incarcerated individuals. We have a lot of smart people in our county and our community who are concerned about and want to see alternatives to incarceration implemented. We have a nationally respected university just up the hill. We have a law school there. The university has a social works program and a sociology and criminology department. So we have a very broad base of members of the public to choose from with justice-involved experience and training to serve on the CJCC. Again, expanding the membership base. So I make a motion now that we pass this and on to the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation. Thank you.
Motion by Justice Coger. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Justice Washington. I want to take just a second here, if you guys will allow me to have liberty. I don't see an issue with this ordinance, but it's not going to change anything we're doing. I appreciate having the eligibility for this group to be opened up. I want to share with you all that I'm committed to re-impaneling the CJCC. I said that from the start. I am still doing that. I know I'm not moving fast enough to please some people, but here's my thought process behind that. We messed it up once. I don't want to mess it up twice. It's also very difficult to find people willing to serve on this board because the nature of its work has become so caustic and so negative. And so, yes, if we can broaden the pool by any means necessary to get somebody qualified to come help us on this board, I'm all for that. Secondly, and I want to make this very clear, I'm open to anything to help our criminal justice system, with the exception of letting more people out of jail. I'm not going to do it. I won't support it as county judge, and I'm not going to go there. And so keep that in mind when we're looking for eligible people to come serve on this board. And lastly, this board needs to come help and assist our people in the county. We have a sheriff with 43 years of law enforcement experience that's lived basically next to that jail. There's not going to be somebody to come tell that man how to run that jail. And I feel very dedicated to that sense myself. Let's come help each other. Let's not dictate to each other. A very wise man told me, not just a few weeks ago, what we can do is influence, we cannot dictate. And I think that's powerful if we will live that. So with that, Justice Ecke.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to commend Justice Coger for her work that she's done on this. And there is a need, but I do have a question. Who vets the eligibility of the people in Article 2? I mean, if you're the qualifications, whose area of responsibility is that?
The county judge's office.
The county judge's office. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Justice Simons.
Thank you, Chair. I think this creates an opportunity for us to rely on some of the community members that may have been in these industry roles and may have retired out of them, and so they're not actively holding titles of law enforcement officials and medical professionals, but have served in those capacities in the past or have industry and institutional knowledge. So I do like the broadening of the eligibility to allow, members of the public now that can serve in a capacity that warrants their experience. So thank you.
Justice Dennis.
Thank you, Judge. Just a short question. Will these be a paid committee members?
No, sir. Nothing else will change about the committee other than the eligibility.
Well, just wanted to ask.
No, yes, no problem.
Didn't want to spend money when we didn't have to. Thank you.
No general fund impact. He's not even listening. I was going to razz him. Any other discussion? Public comments on item number 15. A lot of us know you, but state your name and where you live for the record, please.
Okay. I'm Ann Harbison, and I've served on this court, for 14 years. And I was one of the first people that questioned the criminal justice system, and I worked, and we had the professionals come in and we did the judicial system. Most people were focusing on the jail, And I said, we need to focus on everything to make change. Judge Deacon and I had a discussion before the meeting, and we disagree on a couple of things, but most things we agree on. And I want to really encourage him to get this committee appointed and up and going. Now, the study said we need to hire a director that works with the committee, that comes up with ideas and things, and maybe provide the services in the community. What I'm asking is, I want each of you as a quorum court member, and I'd be glad to visit with you and to work on to improve our criminal justice system. And that's the only comments I really want to make tonight. I don't want people to be upset. We need just to work together where we find areas that we can agree on. We need to agree and work to get those things done. Those things that we disagree on, we need to be cordial to each other on the disagreements. You know, I think this is a thing, this is not a Republican thing, this is not a Democrat thing, this is a community thing. This is costing the county thousands of dollars each day, and we need to work and get some programs, whether they're in or out of the jail, I really don't care. But we do need to work on this. And I'd be glad to visit, and I'll be glad to go over the study of what was recommended. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Justice Harbison. Additional public comments? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion. Come on.
I don't think anybody in this county wants more people in jail. I know, oh, sorry, my name is Jonathan Nunez. I live on Zion Road here in Fayetteville.
Thank you.
Like I was saying, I don't think any of us want more people in jails. I think our tactics are going to differ on the way that we go about reducing recidivism and criminalization in our communities. But the way that we address those issues are through bodies like the CJCC. Appointing people to be on that committee is of utmost importance in order to address those problems. I can't wait until the county judge decides to appoint those people and gets people vetted, people that are going to make the right decisions and think things through. So I appreciate your public comment today, or not your comment today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Additional public comments? All right, I have a motion to pass item number 15 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Cogar, second by Justice Washington. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Item number 15 will move to the full quorum court. Are you serious? Miss Mason, please call a roll.
Coleman Taylor? Yes. David Wilson? Sean Simons? Kyle Lyons? Lisa Ecke? Charles Dean? Chandra Washington? Beth Cogar? Robert Dennis? Willie Lemming? Gary Ricker? Butch Pond?
I missed that vote count, Ms. Mason. Will you do that one more time? I mean, will you call out the vote totals, vote total? 9, 4, and 3 against. Sorry, yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble there too. Item number 15 will move to the full court. Item number 16 is our last item. It's a public comment period. We have public comment set at 12 minutes total, 3 minutes per person. Public comments. Come forward, please. That mic is ready if you'll just state your name and where you're from.
Thank you. My name's Wendy Finn. I'm from Fayetteville. I wanted to talk about the ordinance to require online publication of resolutions, ordinances, and contracts that Justice Koger attempted to add to the agenda after Judge refused to put it on the agenda. It's not in violation of ordinance 2021-26. You can see this if you go back and look at the meetings where it was discussed in 2021. At the county services meeting in March 1st of 2021, J.P. Simons asked this question. He said, so what and who determines what constitutes the same ordinance? So within a year's time frame, if an issue comes up that important, originally addressed, times change, circumstances are different, and there's a need for similar, how is it determined, or is it simply the exact same ordinance brought forward? So it's, the difference is if it's a different ordinance, or if it's the same exact ordinance that's being reintroduced. And Mr. Lester at that point replied, I think as it's written, it would have to be the exact same ordinance because it doesn't say an ordinance that is the same or similar. It just says an ordinance itself, the way I read it. Basically, it says the exact same ordinance. It's my understanding that this ordinance has changed. It's not the same ordinance. Legislative intent and history are important. Judges and lawyers interpreting laws often look back at the notes and documents, including videos and audio tapes and news articles. I was looking at those today. And testimony to see what and how legislation was intended to be by the people who passed at the time. So the ordinance that J.P. Koger is attempting to bring tonight, or that she did attempt to bring tonight, it's not the exact same ordinance. We have Mr. Lester's statement from 2021 that it would have to be the exact same ordinance. By just considering Article 6 and not the history and the legislative intent, what the county's attorney's opinion was in 2021, you're ignoring all the facts of what was said when the ordinance was passed. So refusing to allow the ordinance to be debated on and voted on, it's disenfranchising us of Washington County and limiting the JP's ability to do her job, to legislate laws. As a resident of Washington County,
Thank you, ma'am. Your time has expired. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Additional
Appreciate it.
public comments? Seeing none, we'll be adjourned.